that we should have every other person join us so that way. Hi everyone, my name is Oluwatosin Olasende. It's just about 7 p.m. on the dot and we'll be starting now. We'll also give people like 5 minutes grace in order for them to join us for today's session. It's called Investing 101. I'll be talking to you about different investment types. Then after the class, we're going to have question and answers. Also feel free to use the comment section to just ask me your questions and we hope to have a fantastic time today. So, if you can just come into the comment section and just let me know what part of the world you're in, where are you from? Are you in Lagos? Are you in Abuja? Are you in London? Are you in New York? Where are you? And then just put that in the comment section. Oh wow, I'm seeing Saskatoon, I'm seeing Kwara, I'm seeing UK, seeing Abuja, I'm seeing Sapele, Unilag. Fantastic. This is a very diverse group. Great. We'll be jumping right into it now. So the next thing I'm seeing Birmingham, I'm seeing Abuja, Enugu. Fantastic. So I'll be sharing my slides with you, and please kindly let me know once you can see my slides so we can get into it. Oh, great. My slides are loading, so I'm just going to wait for it. My slides are loading. I'm here. Started sharing my slides. I'm just waiting for it to start showing, and we'll be starting. I genuinely apologize about the few minutes delay. Fantastic. The slides are here. For those that have never come into contact with me, my name is Oluwatosin Olasende. I'm the founder of Money Africa. I got my first job at the age of 20, and I was working in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was living from hand to mouth. Although I earned a decent salary, I was literally taking my salary, pay rent, buy food, buy all these other nice things, and that was it. There was no plan, there was no savings, there was no investment. I picked up the phone, I started calling my friends. I'm talking about friends working at law firms, working at consulting firms like McKinsey, just across the board, some of them working as teachers. It was a similar story. Pay rent, maybe travel once a year, put food on the table. That was it. I was here in my early 20s, and I knew for a fact that this cannot be my life. I do not want a situation where, as I'm turning 40, and I'll have nothing to show for it. So I picked up the internet and I started trying to learn about financial literacy. Guess what I found? I was finding things like 401k. For those that live in the US, this is people living in the US are more familiar with this, like a retirement plan. So I was like, but we don't have 401k in Nigeria. Who is speaking to Nigerians in Nigerian speak in things that they can understand? Who is using cultural context, talking about Ashoebi, talking about black tax and all these other things? So when I knew that there was a gap there, in 2019, I went off, started an Instagram page, and I started educating about financial literacy. As of today, we've reached over 500,000 people. We have an app where people can save and invest, and we also have a platform where people can learn about financial literacy. So this is my why, and this is my passion. It was very important for me to share with you my why and why I'm doing this. So someone is saying that we cannot hear you. Are you serious? Can more people come into the comment section and let me know if you can't hear me? Please, can you comment in this comment section and let me know if you can hear me or not, please? Okay, great. So also, please, can I kindly ask you, if your network is not working, please kindly do not alarm so that way I'm not distracted, so that we are focused, so that it's not just a case of one or two people not hearing, so every other person carries on. Great. So let me get back into, so it was very important for me to share with you my why and why we're on this mission, why we're doing this work, why we're doing financial literacy, because I have suffered firsthand about not knowing what to do with my money, although I have a degree in finance, and then how much more other people, and that was why we started doing this. So we'll get right into it and start educating. The first thing first is you have to start asking yourself, what is your financial goal? What is your why? Why are you doing this? Sometimes we speak to women, people that say, oh, Tosin, I want a plan for my child. I want my child, when they are about to go to university, they should have like a little stash. Other people say, I want to be able to retire, go back to the town, be able to travel once a year. The story is different for everyone. And what it will look like for Tosin is going to be different from Uche, is going to be different from Mohammed or any other person. So you always have to ask yourself, what is your financial goal? And you have to make it personal. Now, you have to clearly articulate what that financial goal is. And also the duration of time is very important. We have three different types of financial goals. The first one is the short-term goals, the goals that are less than 1 year. For your short-term goals, you have to be realistic. If, for instance, as of July 2025, you're earning 100,000 naira per month, it's quite audacious for you to say that at the end of the year, you want to have 100 million naira. While it is not impossible, you could get like a crazy business idea that is moving crazily and actually happens, the chance of it happening is quite, it's little, it's not impossible. So with short-term goals, we want you to be realistic. We have another one called the medium-term goals that is from 2 years to 5 years. We want you to be audacious, right? So you start setting the stones, you start building towards it. There was a time we met a lady, she was a veterinary doctor earning about 100,000 naira, which is just about less than $100 per month. And in 2 years, she transitioned into tech. She has 2 jobs and she's now doing well over 4,000 US dollars per month. She's built in those 2 years and saw the transitioning happen. Now we have something else called the long-term goals. We're talking about 10 years. 10 years is when you can go crazy. 10 years is when you can go mad. So, what is your wildest imagination? And I'm challenging you. At the end of this session, I want you to get a pen and paper and write down, what is my wildest imagination? What is that crazy thing that I desire? I'm thinking 10 years and go put it into paper. What can I do today that will take me towards that journey in the next 10 years? I want to start thinking about it. So, in summary, we have 3 different types of goals. We have the short-term goal that is less than a year, where you have to be realistic. We have the medium-term goal. This is where growth happens. You're building over the time so you can transition into it. It's usually for 2 to 5 years. And we have the decades, the long-term goal that we're thinking 10 years. This is where we want you to go crazy. We want you to go delusional. We want you to go insane. Ask yourself, what can happen in the next 10 years? And what am I doing to be able to achieve that? Great. Next slide. Introduction to financial literacy. I would like to read this quote out to you. Money is a skill that can be learned just like playing a video game. But since it's become so intertwined with status, self-worth, morality, and survival, People have such a distorted view of it. So your parents tell you to save it, your pastors tell you to avoid it, your culture tells you that it's not important, yet most of modern problems can only be solved by money. Money have such a warped perception of money that they become people have such a warped perception of money that they become controlled by it. And since they scoff at the thought of improving themselves and even making more, there is no way out. Where am I going? There was a particular post somebody made, and we're talking about what are the poor decisions you've made. And I did an audit of that post. They had over 40 responses, even all the way to 100. When I scrutinized that post, guess what? 75% of all those poor decisions were tied to money. I was living in a place I knew they did not want me there, but I did not have money to move out. I was something, 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 something. I knew that something, but I did not have the funds to. I wanted to study X, Y, and Z, but I did not have the funds to. We're able to tie back 75% of all those problems back to money. You truly have a problem when money cannot solve it. And it's very important for you to start thinking because you see how powerful money is. So you can either lie to yourself and say money is not important, or you can actually say, what can I do in order for me to be able to have those resources to actually solve my problems and also be able to help others if it's important to you. So this is our introduction. Our agenda for today, we want to evaluate if wealth is as a result of mindset or knowledge. Also, do I need a budget? And also risk and return. Talking about the different asset classes, diversifications, and drawing up a financial plan. So, is wealth as a result of mindset or knowledge? Can you please come into the comment section and let me know? Do you think wealth is as a result of mindset or wealth is as a result of knowledge? What do you think? I want to hear from you. I'm listening to you in the comment section. All right, guys, coming to the comment section, I want to hear from you. So Wazirat says it's both, Tayo says it's both, Rodiya says it's both, Ajiboye says it's both. Absolutely, it is both. However, there's a catch. Wealth is actually 80% mindset and 20% knowledge. Once you realize how big a role mindset plays in it, you're going to change the entire game. Let me give you an example. 12 young Nigerians were selected for a 100% paid, fully sponsored trip to Japan for a project for 1 week. And one of the ladies that was selected said that she would rather choose the online option and she would not go physically to Japan. We were curious, why don't you want to go to Japan? Guess what? She did not choose the option of going there physically because she does not have a passport. And now somebody else could be thinking, could it be maybe she has a nursing baby or maybe she has a family that is not allowing her to go? There was nothing of that sort. Her real hindrance was the fact that she did not have a passport. For a bit of context, getting a Nigerian passport is about 50,000 naira to 70,000 naira, and she could get it in less than 2 weeks. And this is me playing devil's advocate because she could even get it in a faster period of time. But she chose not to go for it because of a passport of 70,000 naira. I was so pained. Like, how is it possible that you would say no to a 100% fully sponsored trip that you've never been out of this country to get trained to pitch your business, and you would say no because of a passport? But guess what? It is very easy for us to be mocking her or pointing fingers, but other people are also guilty. Let me give you an example of how you're guilty. You could be working a job that is paying you 200,000 naira or even ideas for that, but maybe you have a capacity for more. Maybe you truly have a capacity to do maybe times two of that same amount, right? Other people could be playing in a space where they are looking for 1 million or 10 million naira, but the true capacity of that person could be 200 million naira. Some people could have $1 million idea, but they are acting as though they are chasing just $50,000. And this is where it starts. It's from the mind. So we can say to ourselves, oh, she just said no to a fully sponsored trip to Japan just because of a 70,000 naira passport. But if you scrutinize your life, there are times you've also made similar poor decisions because you're not able to see or think bigger than it is. At the end of the day, it all starts here. And once the mind has been fixed, then every other thing is possible. So before you scrutinize or you're looking at things, you're always asking yourself, Am I the one standing in my way? Am I the one hindering myself for the next level? Am I the one stopping myself? Every time people want to start personal finance classes, they say to me, Tosin, where do I start from? And I keep telling them, start from your mind. Pick up the book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's very, very helpful. So, with that book, you're able to read and study how the mind works and how you can use the mind to your advantage, how you can use it to build wealth, right? Wealthy people spend much more time thinking about their finances than people who remain poor. The average adult spends 2 to 3 hours each month on their finances. But guess what? The people that become wealthy, they're spending 20 to 30 hours per month. They are thinking, they are studying, and they are planning their finances. So they're spending an average of 1 hour every month, every day, thinking about their finances. However, the people that stay average or below average are using just about 10 minutes per day. We want you to start using your brain, tasking your brain, and start looking for how can I get ideas? How can I be able to apply my mind in order for me to build wealth? Great. So we're going to the next slide. Wealthy people never leave things to luck. It's very, very important for you to know that those that actually become wealthy, they are not leaving it to luck. There are way too many people There are way too many people that are leaving things to luck. But let me give you an example. In Nigeria, based on our institution, the constitution, people are only obligated for them to have an insurance plan for third parties. So there are many people driving cars worth over 5 million naira without a comprehensive cover. God forbid, if anything happens, they would have to pay out of pocket and they will lose money, right? Many people will say things like, I plead the blood of Jesus, and amongst others, right? But remember, wisdom is profitable to direct. So if anything can be insured, go ahead and insure it. Another one that you should also pay consideration to is your health. You are your biggest asset. You are the machine. Imagine you see a beautiful, fantastic car, but the car does not have an engine. That car is practically useless. They will only sell the body as like scraps, but the real power of that car that will get it moving and have more value is the engine. And you start seeing your health and you as a person as the engine. They always say something, if the leader or if the person themselves is in good condition, their mind is right, their body is well, the business will find its way. So we always advocate to people, start seeing your health as an investment. So please, please, please get a comprehensive insurance plan. I hear people say things like, oh, Tosin, I got an insurance plan, but they're only giving me money for Panadol. What is happening is you're most likely getting a cheap health insurance plan. You have no business getting insurance plan for 5,000 naira or 10,000 naira. Bring out that money. Your health is a prized possession. Get a good comprehensive plan so that, God forbid, if anything happens, you're fully covered. So for people that are having babies, you want to have the cesarean operation, something happened, you have to be in hospital. At that point, you don't want to start looking for the money. Health insurance plan covers it so that way you can focus on your health and bouncing back. It's an investment. The third one here is life insurance. I saw a 23-year-old sent us an email saying, oh, Tosin, I want to get a life insurance plan. I said, how old are you, 23? Do you have any children? No, I do not. So why are you worried about it? For life insurance, if you do not have a dependent, do not worry about it. That is not your priority. But the minute you start having children, you have a partner, you have a spouse, then this is top of mind because God forbid if anything happens, what's going to happen to the children that leave behind? And you can start thinking of life insurance. But if you do not have children yet, the ones, if anything happens to you, they will take care of themselves. Do not worry about it. The last but not the least is reputational risk. If you live in a developing economy, it's a low trust environment. Many people do not pay close attention to their reputation. What they say about you when you're not in the room is very important, and it is built over the years. I've seen situations where as people have left our company to go work elsewhere, but you got a very, very big contract. Guess what? I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling them, but I'm not calling everyone. Who I'm calling is very intentional. They have built a reputation of excellence that even though they do not work with us anymore, I know that I could pick up the phone to call them. And it's even just one of the examples, looking at how do people, what do they think about the quality of your work? You have to be very intentional about ensuring that your reputation is very solid, because your reputation can be tied to wealth. There are many opportunities you've gotten via referral. So for the quality of your work, you want a solid, stellar reputation. And these are some of the ways that wealthy people do not leave things to luck. They are very, very intentional. Next, achieving financial independence is actually very slow. It's slower than people like to talk about. In 99% of the cases where people become wealthy, it is a slow incremental growth, right? So you keep hearing news like, oh, a 25-year-old just raised $5 million, dollars, or this person just raised $10 million dollars and they're just in their early 20s. And you're asking yourself, what have I done wrong? But guess what? They are in the minority, they are less than 1%. I want that for you. But based on data, it takes the average person about 22 years to accumulate $1 million. They did this research about a decade ago. Things might have changed now and it is faster. I will show you all the different numbers to show you what is possible as to how you can get to your $1 million. So remember, achieving financial independence is what's slower than we think. Can I get there faster? Absolutely. How can we do that? You want to build a high growth business. You want to be a virtuoso, right? You want to be able to build a business that is churning out cash faster than you're able to build it. So, is it possible? It is not impossible, right? But they are not in the majority. In the majority of the cases where people build wealth, it is slow and it is slow and steady. I'm talking about 20 years, they build their $1 million, right? Can I get it faster? Yes, you can, but it is they are in the minority. Let me give an example of a virtuoso. I know that not everybody in the room is Nigerian. I'm going to use one Nigerian example, and I'm going to use one foreign example. There's a particular sensation that is now popular now. They call the person Shegun Johnson, right? He sings at weddings or functions for about 2 hours, and it sounds like just lyrics and banters. But guess what he charges? He charges approximately $7,000 for him to be there. So, and he performed for just about 2 hours. So that's an average of $3,000 per hour, right? So if this person gets an average of 10 events in a month, which is very understated, because there was a time I actually went on their page to count the average events in a month, and it's way more than that. This person is churning out about 70,000 US dollars per month as revenue. This is a virtuoso. A virtuoso is a person that is able to charge significantly more than their peers, 10x more. And because they're able to charge way more, right, if they invest it, they can arrive at the number earlier. It's not impossible, just that the criteria is higher. You require higher skills. You require, it's a skill and it's rare. And we can literally count this number of people. There's a particular company that tracks the millionaires and dollars in on the continent. Do you know that only 8,300 Nigerians have 1 million US dollars? Why am I saying all of this? I really do not want us to be confused about what we see online or what we see elsewhere. There are just 8,300 US millionaire dollars in the whole of Nigeria. Don't be deceived with the Chanel bags. Don't be deceived with the fancy cars. The numbers do not lie. However, in the United States, 23 million Americans are worth at least 1 million US dollars. Just because of geography, we're seeing different numbers altogether, right? So it's very, very interesting how the numbers work. The summary of this is not to discourage you, not at all. We've seen many unicorn builders on the continent. We've seen people doing amazing, amazing work. We are just showing you data. We're showing you what the average is looking like. We're showing you the numbers. We're helping you to manage expectation and also to be able to project, right? And this is our job. Great. Oh, I want to do a quick exercise with you. If you were investing 20,000 Naira every month, getting 10% per annum from your 20s, By the time you hit retirement, do you know how much you probably would have by the time you hit retirement? Can you please just come into the comment section and share your answer with me? There is a right answer, but wrong answers are welcome. Please come share with me. I want to see it. If you're investing 20,000 naira every month at 10% per annum, how much would you have by the time you hit retirement and you started doing it in your 20s? There's a right answer, but wrong answers are welcome. Please indulge me and come to the comment section. Okay, we're seeing Simeon say $2 million. No ways. I'm talking investing 20,000 naira every month. You're getting 10% per annum. And by the time you hit retirement, how much would you have? You started in your 20s, so you're going to be in the market for about 40 to 45 years. You're investing 20K every month and you get 10%. All right, thank you, Daniel. He says 25 million. Victor says 4 million. The answer is 211 million. That's what's going to happen by you investing 20,000 naira every month and you're getting 10% per annum, you would have a whooping 211 million by the time you hit retirement. But if that same person started 10 years later, so they started in their 30s instead of them starting in their 20s, that person is going to have 76 million naira. So just by the virtue of you starting 10 years later, you would have lost 135 million naira. Now it gets really interesting. If that same person in their 30s, instead of them doing 20K every month, they started doing 100K every month, guess what's going to happen? They would walk away with about 382 million naira by the time they hit retirement, right? So the purpose of this conversation is that number one, time is a critical element. I want you starting early. We want to catch them in their 20s, we want to catch them in their 30s. But if we don't catch you early enough, the next thing you have going for you is the amount. So the person in their 20s that was able to do 20,000 naira, now that you're in your 30s or your 40s, I want you to do 100K so that you can catch up and you can even surpass them, right? So that's how it changes. So we're very intentional about saying time, time, time. Now, you might be thinking and saying, Tosin, what of the naira depreciation? And that's a valid question. So we also did the scenario in dollars. If you started investing $50 every month and you're getting 10% per annum, which the S&P 500 that tracks 500 of the largest companies in the world can give you that, you would walk away with about $500,000 just by starting in your 20s. If you started in your 30s, you will walk away with about $200,000. What if I am in my 40s? That's not a problem. You have to increase your contribution. So instead of doing $50, I want you doing $100. I want you doing $150. I want you doing more. So the whole essence of this conversation is not to make you feel sad or make you feel bad. No, it's just to show us what is possible and how we have to up our game once we get to a certain age. So do not feel despondent. This class is for everyone. So we have four categories of people. The first category are people that do not save. You do not save, you do not invest. That is a very big problem. Now remember that I'm not talking about Mama Tosin or Mama Ebuka that is sitting by the roadside and trying to make ends meet. I'm talking about a person that has has finished paying all the essentials. So you have a roof over your head, you've eaten, you've put on the lights, and you have something left. We call that a discretionary income. A discretionary income is what is left after you've met all your essentials. If you have a discretionary income after all your essentials have been met and you are not saving or investing, then we have a problem, right? And you fall under category one. Category two are those that save too little. If you look at my previous slides, I was talking to you about how what is possible if you're doing 20,000 naira every month, and what is possible if you're doing 50,000 naira every month, and what is possible if you're doing 100,000 naira every month. If you have the capacity for 100,000 naira, but you're doing 20,000 naira, then we have a problem because you are leaving money on the table, right? So the essence is this: you are leaving money on the table if you're saving too little, and too little is very relative. You are the only one that will know what is too little for you because you know how much you earn, you know your responsibilities, and you know what is available. The category three are those that save to consume. So you save to buy a car, you save to go on a holiday, and there's nothing bad with that. We want you to consume. The economy grows because you are consuming. So you consuming is absolutely okay. Then category four are those who save and invest in the long run. I want you to be able to save or invest in the long run. I'm seeing a couple of people in the comment section saying, oh, but I earn only 30,000 naira. Now, listen, when we wanted to have this class, remember that we have a whole team, there are people behind the background ensuring that we are making this work and all of that. Even if you can't apply it for today because you're not earning up to 30,000 naira, you want to start saying to yourself, what in the next 2 years I'm able to afford that? What if in the next 10 years I'm able, sorry, in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years? So it's more about, even if I'm not able to make that investment or even save 5,000 naira as of today, how about tomorrow? It will eventually happen, right? Another big critical asset of being financially literate is optimism. Optimism is an asset, and there's lots and lots of research to back it. So we can say, oh my gosh, it is doomsday. Nothing is going to happen. I'm only going to make 30,000 naira. Nothing is this or that. Or we can say, what skills do I have and how am I going to move towards at least making 100K every month or even 200K or even going up of that? Just that optimism and wiring your brain to find the opportunities is also an asset on its own. So, in terms of the category of people that save or invest, we want you to transition from category one to category four. I will repeat once again, for those that do not have a discretionary income, the Mama Ebukas, Mama Tosins, this is not for them. We understand that they are doing their best to just make ends meet. They are struggling to cover their essentials. So this conversation is primarily for those that after you've covered your essentials and you've made ends meet, you have something left. Great. So let's talk about risk and return. Risk and return is a very important conversation. I love to liken risk and return to salt. If you have a dish and you put too much salt, it's so salty you'll be unable to eat it. If you have a dish with very little salt, it's going to be so tasteless, like you can't really taste the meal. The right one is having the right amount of salt that it just hits the spot. And that is how risk works. Let me give you an example as well. A 20-year-old that just finished school, stay with mommy and daddy, has little risk. It's completely different from another 20-year-old that lost their parents or comes from a low-income household, has to do multiple jobs, send money back home, and still looking for something little. So even risk is not even just about age alone. Two people can be in the same age, can be in the same age bracket but have different realities, right? Because one has a little bit of room over their head, the other one not so much. So we need to start treating money like an underwear. The way that underwear fits you is different from the way the underwear is going to fit the next person. It has to be very personal. Money is personal. So don't look at the other person. Don't say, oh, but they are able to do this, you're able to do that. You're asking yourself, what can Oluwatosin do with what she has? What can Chinedu do with what he has? What can Mohammed do with what the cards he has been dealt with? So it is a very personal, very, very personal conversation. You're looking at it to apply to yourself, right? So we're not caring about other people, we're making it very personal. Risk, 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 very important conversation. So, what are the things that you consider? Number one, what season of my life am I currently in? How close am I to retirement? The minute you start hitting 45, you're literally 15 years away, right? There are certain kinds of risk we do not want you taking because if you take that risk, it will cost you to work twice as hard to come back and catch up, right? We limit or reduce the amount of risk you're able to take at a certain age. It means you start kissing 50, we significantly reduce the amount of risk we want you to take because you are closer to retirement, right? So also, if you're in your early 20s or your 30s, what risk can we currently take now? How can we start diversifying that portfolio? So you're considering a whole lot of things. And the conversation today, I'll be talking to you about the different investment classes and the different opportunities and the different risks that are involved. Great. So, next slide, budgeting. Budgeting is a very important conversation in the sense that people find it a bit intrusive, right? Like, oh gosh, now I have to budget. They see it like a burden, right? It's almost like, oh, I feel limited. But guess what? Prior to me starting Money Africa, I used to work with British American Tobacco, and we had a budget of about 15 to 20 million US dollars for my the section I was working on. And despite this large amount of money, guess what? Spent at least 35% of my time working on the budget. So budgeting never goes away. Even Dangote still budgets. The other time he was talking about how he had a choice between buying a football club that he liked then and then investing in Dangote, the new petrochemical, the new, sorry, 1 minute, the oil company you just I'm coming. I know what they do, but you know the new company that Dangote just launched? Yes. Before he chose that. So he had to decide, am I going to buy that football club or am I going to pump that money into the refinery? Thank you. It was the refinery. He had to make that decision. So you're always, and budgeting never stops. So today it might look like, do I rent a place closer to work or do I move farther away from work? It might look like, do I buy this bag or do I not do this? But guess what? Budgeting never goes away. It still continues to crop up in different seasons of your life, regardless of the amount of money you have. You still always have to make these decisions. Of course, we're not going to lie and say that once you get to a certain number, it becomes much more easier and you're not deciding, oh, am I going to eat this or am I not going to eat that? It's a more like, oh, am I going to buy a football club or am I going to invest in a refinery? It's a more nicer decision as opposed to when you're trying to choose for essentials, right? So there's a famous one called 50, 30, 20. 50, 30, 20 basically means 50% of all your money goes towards your needs, that is things you need to survive, your rent, your electricity, your groceries, your transportation. Now, bear in mind, if 50% of your income is going towards the things you need to survive, a you are privileged, right? Because based on the number of people that come for our sessions and we're looking at the numbers, it's a bit higher. And that's just because of the income levels. Rent is more expensive. The school fees are getting expensive. So once parents pay school fees, they put their kids in school, they pay rent, they buy food, they do all those things, they've definitely crossed the 50% mark, right? The next one is 30%. We want you to be able to put 30% of your money towards your wants, right? Like something that is nice to have. You are planning to buy a dress, you can get it from there. You know, you were planning to go have a drink with your girls or go have a drink with your boys, you can get it from there. And then you have 20%, which is building your investment. We are recommending at least 20% of your income towards investment. Investment is very, very key, right? Now, if for some reasons you're not able to give 20% of your income towards investment, what you could also do is go for 10%. So if you can't do 20%, do 10%, amongst others. This same chart is very interesting in the sense that also have to bear in mind that some people have black tax. So they're sending money back home, they have to put their siblings through school, they're paying their parents' rent. Where do they take this money out of? I always ask them, how will you categorize this expense? Is it an essential or is it a nice to have? So if you do not pay your parents' rent, they'll be on the street. It's an essential. If you don't contribute towards feeding, they will, starve to death. It's considered an essential. But if your parents are reaching out and saying, oh, we want to have this money because I want to buy a share B or something like that, it's a nice to have. So all these other things sort of helps you to be able to form how critical is that need. So all these things actually come together. So how can I be able to track my expenses? You can use a good old Excel sheet. You can use Expensify. You can use Find Rich, amongst others. These are some of the things that you can use to budget. But please, 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 we advocate for you guys to get start budgeting your money. Very, very, very important. Okay, next is emergency fund. Emergency fund basically means that you're taking your monthly expense, you're multiplying it by 3, and you're putting it somewhere safe. So emergency fund is important because somebody, for instance, falls sick and they need money, they want to be able to go to the emergency fund, or an unexpected thing happens. I don't want you using your savings for your emergency fund for your healthcare, because this is where health insurance comes in. With a good health insurance plan, you should be able to cover it. Another thing people use emergency fund for is if they lose their job, right? Especially now in the tech industry, many people are losing their jobs. You're seeing 1,000 people let go of and things like that. You can use your emergency fund to bridge the gap while searching aggressively to find a new job. So, based on our experience and research, three things make people go into the emergency fund: they fall sick, get a health insurance plan. They lose their job. Before you lose your job, we want you to be very, very intentional, very active, like using your LinkedIn, letting people know about your skills, so that way you can easily transition to another job compared to your peers. And then number three is when their loved ones die. You know how it's quite expensive in this part of the world for doing funerals. In short, actually, it's a global thing, because I'm seeing some cost of, in order to bury people, like in the UK, you're looking at about £5,000 or even more. It's like, wow, that's really, really quite expensive. So you want to take these things into consideration. And if there are plans that get you to insure, just in case if anything happens, they will cover those expenses. Please, by all means, take those opportunities. All right, so where can I put my emergency fund? You can put your emergency funds in an accessible port, right? Like a platform that you can access within 24 hours. We have Ladder. Ladder is our savings and investment platform, and then you can deposit your money there in order to be able to do that. Great. So next is, where do I want to invest if I want? So what do I so if I want to invest, where do I invest? The first option here is fixed deposit or savings. As of today, inflation rate is 22.97%, but savings rates across commercial banks is giving you an average of about 5% to 8%. And our fintech app, that is Ladder, offers you about 20%, where you can actually save and get 20%. So if you look at the inflation graph that I've shown here, this is for the last 5 years, right? In 2021, we used to have inflation rates of less than 20%. At some point, our inflation rate was about 12%, but it went all the way up, as you can see on this graph, almost kissing 36%. But as of today, we are currently on 25%. So that's how, those are some of the, inflation rates, and that's what we're currently having now. Next is microfinance fixed deposits. Under microfinance fixed deposits, you can see again inflation rate is 22.97%. For microfinance, you have to be very intentional about the rating of the institution, right? So the Central Bank of Nigeria, for example, it revoked the licenses of 179 microfinance banks, right? In addition to the microfinance banks, the CBN also revoked the licenses of 3 finance companies. Where am I going? The safety of your money is more important than the return of your money. Please, can I ask you guys for a little favor? Money Africa has its savings and investment app. You should not be promoting other people's products on our comment section. We're offering this service for that purpose, right? And we'll just really appreciate that. This is a free session and would appreciate that. Okay, we can do the marketing elsewhere. So because of the risk involved, it's very important that you are very, very careful about the platforms that you also invest in, especially for microfinance, right? So ask yourself, what if they revoke the licenses of this microfinance bank? So you want to look at things like, who are the founders? How long have they been in the market? How long have they been in the market? What are the opportunities, amongst others, right? So the next one is treasury bills. A treasury bill is a short-term loan, right? It is less than a year. It is issued at par value and it matures at the same price. There are cases where as the interest is paid up front, right? And also you can apportion the interest rate. Stay with me. Somebody reached out to us and said, Tosin, I'm seeing a treasury bill that is offering me 16% for 3 months. Does that mean that I'm going to get 16% of my money in 3 months? Meaning that if I put in 1 million naira now and I wait for 3 months, they will give me 160,000 naira. And I said, no, that's not how it works. You apportion it in the sense that you take the 3 months, you divide it by 12, and you multiply it by the amount, right? So whenever they say treasury bills, you have to check how many months is it for. So the rate for 3 months is different from the rate of 6 months, and it's different from the rate of 9 months and for 1 year. And then you apportion it. You always have to apportion it, right? Now for treasury bills, we have something called the primary auction and the secondary auction. The primary auction is the first time that they're selling that particular treasury bill, right? So in primary auctions, you can get for like 23% as of today. So that's where a lot of companies will go and buy the treasury bills. So when they buy it, then they now resell it to you and I. When it is sold a second time, that is a secondary auction. So stay with me. Primary auction is the first time they ever made a purchase. Secondary auction is when you are reselling. So let me give you an example. The first time I bought this top from the fashion designer is a primary auction. But if I'm tired of it, I've worn it for like 1 year, I'm tired of it. I now put it on Instagram, I'm selling this outfit for 25,000, and who wants to come and buy it from me? That is a secondary auction because I'm now reselling it for the second time. So we're able to get that. Great. Now, another reason why people love treasury bills is because it's like a risk-free asset. Because the government is the one backing it. And for like the last 3 decades, the Nigerian government has not defaulted on federal government bonds or treasury bills. People know that they can sleep at night, and that's why they feel a lot of safety for it, right? So the rate is about 23% at primary auction and about 20% at secondary auction. Great. And you can get treasury bills on ladder. The next one is, oops, the next one is government bonds. Unlike of treasury bills, government bonds is long-term in nature, right? Long-term in nature, meaning that you can get for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or even more. It is issued at par value and it matures at the same price. So sometimes some interest rates are floating and sometimes it is fixed. Let me explain the difference for you. If the interest rate is fixed, so for instance, they were selling a Sukuk bond earlier in the year. We wrote about it, I think it was about a month ago. It was about 19.5%. That was how much they were selling that bond for. And it was a 5 year bond. If you bought that bond and for the next 5 years, they're giving you 19.5%. But there's a catch. If in the next 3 years, Nigeria's economy gets really better, inflation rate goes down, and now the bonds in the market, as at the next 3 years, are now going for like, let's say 8% or 9%. Your Sukuk bond will continue to pay you 19.5% because they are looking for a fixed rate. Stay with me. It could also go the other way around. If things get worse and inflation rate goes up to like 33%, something percent, and you're seeing bonds go for like 25%, if you choose a fixed rate bond, in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years, when people are getting paid 25% on their bonds, you will still be getting your 19.95%, your 19.5%, because that was what you agreed to 3 years ago. So you've seen about how this thing works, right? So that's the thing about government bonds. Now, it's very important for us to also point that the Ghanaian bonds defaulted, right, about a year or 2 years ago, and the African market gets punished for it. Because when one player in the African market defaults, the international market looks at everybody almost like with the same pair of eyes. So if one person defaults, almost everybody gets a whooping for that one default. So there was a big case about the bond in Ghana that was defaulted, and they're restructuring it amongst others. But it's a very long time that we've seen a default happen for the Nigerian federal government bond. Right, we're crossing fingers for Ghana that we hope that they rectify it and they fix it. Great. So the next one now is commercial papers. You must have been seeing commercial papers everywhere now. It's like the new hottest cake. But let me tell you why these papers are getting very hot and everybody's talking about it. Commercial papers on average as of today is about 23%. So you see Dangote Cement, you see MTN, you see all these companies issuing commercial papers. You're probably thinking, why are they issuing it? If they were to go to the bank to get a loan, the bank might give them an interest rate of like 28%. But if they can come to you and I to get that same loan for 23%, why should they go to the bank to pay more? You can say it. If the bank will give them 28%, but you and I will collect 23%, they'll rather come to us. And that's why many people are issuing commercial papers. Also, another reason why commercial papers is not bad is that it takes pressure off the bank because the bank has limited funds, limited deposits. So if the bank is giving all its money to your Dangote, your Zenith, your Lafarge, and all these other big companies, how would they service retail investors that need short-term loan? So it's a win-win for everyone. Commercial papers are usually for 9 months. In the past, you needed a minimum of 5 million naira, but now fintechs, there are quite a number of fintech companies that now allow you to buy commercial papers on their platform at a reduced price. Great. Next slide. Mutual funds. So what are mutual funds? Mutual funds are basically saying that we want a situation whereas we pool the resources together, we have a fund manager, an expert that is going to manage that fund. That fund manager then takes the pooled funds, invests it in securities, and then they get some return. The return that they get is now passed back to the investor, right? So you can see how it works. It's like a mutual fund and all of that. Take investors, they pool the resources together, they give it to a fund manager, they invest it in securities, they get a return, they pass it back to the investor. So these are all the ways that mutual funds could be done. You're seeing like a whole, you're seeing how the whole process is done. But it gets really more interesting. I love to liken mutual funds like rice. If I put rice into tomato sauce, it's going to become jollof rice. If I put rice into coconut sauce, it's going to become coconut rice. If I put rice into fried vegetables, it's going to become fried rice. So whatever I put my rice into determines the kind of rice it's going to be. So before you put your money in a mutual fund, you have to ask, what is the mutual fund going to be put into? Whatever it's going to be put into determines the kind of mutual fund it is. So if the mutual fund is put into treasury bills, commercial papers, it is a money market mutual fund, right? Treasury bills, FG, government bonds, all these low risk assets, it's a money market mutual fund, meaning that you can sleep at night, the risk is very low. Now, if that same fund is put in the stock market, what is it called? It's called an equity mutual fund because the risk is higher, right? You're putting it in the stock market. If that same fund is put into real estate products, what do you think that fund is going to be called? So you're able to understand how these different mutual funds takes the identity of what it is put into. So the next time you're speaking to your financial advisor or you're buying an investment off an app that is a mutual fund, always do your research. What is the kind of this mutual fund? What is it going into? If it is a money market mutual fund, the risk is very low because it is treasury bills, federal government bonds, and all those low risk assets. So again, you can sleep at night. So the kind of fund they put it into determines what type of mutual fund it is. All right. So the next thing is let's talk about equity, stock, and shares. What exactly is equity, stock, or share? Basically, these three words can be used interchangeably. They mean the same thing. If you're hearing equities, if you're hearing stock, if you're hearing shares, it means the same thing. It's basically ownership in a company, and it is a passive way to build wealth, meaning that you can sleep while the money works for you. For instance, what I'm doing now is active work. I'm the founder of Money Africa. I'm taking this session. I'm actively working for this company called Money Africa. It is not a passive investment. It is an active investment because it requires my energy, my time, and my strategy. The woman that goes to work in the morning to a shop to sell sugar, granules, she has all this like cosmetic or even grocery store. It is active work. The difference about equity, stock, or shares is that it is passive. You're not going to GTB to resume in the money to work with them as an investor. Do you get what I'm trying to say? They are making the decisions on your behalf. They are running the company on your behalf, and you get to have a little bit of that pie. And that is what a passive investment is. Now, there are two ways you can make money from the stock market. You can make money via capital appreciation, meaning that I bought my shares at 5 naira, it's now 10 naira. Or I bought my shares at $5, it's now $10. Or you can get dividends. Dividends basically means that I'm paid a percentage of the the revenue. So at the beginning of the year, the company can say, we're going to give everybody $1 for owning our stock, or we're going to give everybody 5 naira for owning our stock. Basically, they are giving you dividend. They say, thank you for owning the stock and for being a part of it. So people either make money via capital appreciation or by dividends. And there are lots and lots of cases where you make money via both. So your stock is growing and they're also giving you dividends. Now, we have two different kinds of stocks. We have growth stock and we have dividend stock. A growth stock means that they're in their early stage, they're trying to grow. So instead of them paying you a dividend, that money of them paying you a dividend, they'll put it back into the company so that they can grow bigger, right? So you see companies that are trying to grow, they are growth stocks. Now, a dividend stock is they are now fat, they are healthy, they've done well, and they're happy to just keep paying dividend. An example of this is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has been paying dividend for the last 100 years. While you might not see a significant growth in the price of their stock, what you will constantly see is that they must pay you dividend every year, right? So you can see the difference between a growth stock and a dividend stock. They are separate. Again, a stock can give you both growth and still give you dividend. If you want to invest in stock, there are things that you should look out for. Strong management, longevity, and also past performance. Now, management is very key. You're going on Google, you're going to search who are the founders of this company. There are way too many people that are buying stocks or crypto coin that they don't even know what the company is doing. And I'm going to be honest, once upon a time, there was a time I bought a crypto coin and I did not even know what the company was doing. And we don't want to be doing that. You need to know from the top of your head. This is what this company does. This is what they're trying to solve. You need to know exactly what they are doing. Then after a while, you're able to also read their financial statement. This is what their revenue is. This is what their profit is. Why is that important? If anything changes, you can beat your chest saying that I made an informed decision. As at the point where I bought the stock, it was doing X, Y, or Z. You are aware and you know exactly who they are and what they do. You're making an investment decision. So you have to do this research. Now, another thing is past performance is not a guarantee of future performance. There are quite a number of companies that were doing well in the past and now they've fallen off. Before Netflix came into their horizon, there was Blockbuster. I remember when Netflix was begging Blockbuster to buy them and they did not buy them, right? Blockbuster is now a thing of the past, it's a case study, everybody just talking about it and it's gone, right? So past performance does not guarantee future performance, but what it does is that it gives us an insight, an inkling as to what they've done in the past, and you're hoping that they can replicate it and even do better in the future. The next thing is we did a 10 years challenge in 2019 to look at these equity companies. We looked at GTB, we looked at First Bank and all of that. Did you know that in 2009, GTB used to go for 12 naira? As of today now, it's almost kissing 100 naira, right? So look at Stanbic for 7 naira. They were all cheap stocks, right? And then in 2019, you've seen that jump. Now, when we did a 10-year challenge, as at that year, Nestle was doing very well. Stanbic did okay. GTB did, it did okay. NEM and Transcorp did okay. We did it again last year. We did another 10-year challenge again last year. GTCO, this was just as of 30th of November of September 2024. It was about 15 naira. Again, GTB is kissing 100 naira now. We've seen a dramatic change in the last 6 months. You're looking at FBN Holdings, you're looking at Nestle, you're looking at Owando, and a couple of other companies. So if you look at just this graph alone, right, FBN Holdings is doing a great job. NEM Insurance is doing a great job. UBA PLC is doing a great job. And you're also seeing the growth in those companies. But 2025, we've seen a really, really crazy, dramatic change. You must have been hearing people talking about this new company now called Better Glass. We're looking at their numbers. We're looking at the growth that they are seeing over the years. You're looking at Honeywell Flour. You're looking at Vitafoam. You're looking at Presco, right? And if you look at this top 5 companies doing really, really great numbers, we are seeing a situation whereas we've been talking about Nigerian apps in the past, but there's been a game changer, right? I'm talking about Nigerian stocks, right? There has been a game changer in the last 1 year. They are seeing growth that they have never seen before. How long is this going to last? We do not know. For every new investors coming into the space, I want to say, please do not come with money for school fees. Do not come with money that is your rent. The stock market is built to do this. It could go down. And if it goes down, we don't want a situation where as you're like, oh my gosh, we're deceived, we're defrauded, and things like that. So what we always tell people is if you do not have money to stay in the stock market for at least 2 years, please don't touch it. Go and buy treasury bills, go and buy money market mutual fund, go and buy commercial paper because there is no guarantee. There's something we say we cannot time the market. So we always tell people that want to invest in stocks, think long term, think 2 years, think 5 years, think 10 years. If you cannot think for that long, please don't touch it, right? I remember when I bought Palantir, this was about in 2021, is one of my best performing stocks now. It has done over 500%, right? It's doing really, really well. But as at that point, it was just several years ago. And you hear stories like this. People bought stocks and they just waited. You should have some kind of money that you can afford to wait for a while. If you cannot wait for at least 2 years, please leave stock market alone, right? So you're seeing that that is the growth, things that you are considering. Because remember that these companies are also companies. Let me give you an example, even Nestle. Nestle was doing well. They were selling their stock for 1,400. But guess what happened? They had a new government, right? They started having forex FX issues. When there was FX issues in Nigeria, all the manufacturing companies suffered. They could not access FX and they could not tap into the global market. They could not easily import goods and they were seeing a lot of dip in their numbers. They suffered, but now they're going back up. There's now more stability. The Naira is more stable and things like that. So we're saying all of this to measure, to manage your optimism. We want you in the stock market, but I'm also reassuring you, please, long-term game. You want to stay there. When MTN did their IPO in Nigeria, we played a very important case in educating people about it. Was the first time people have been using MTN SIM cards. Finally, they can buy their shares, and they did. But guess what? There was a time they dipped. MTN stock dipped, and it felt like people were making losses. But guess what? They're back on top now, despite the fact that data cost has gone up. This is still the highest usage that telecommunications companies have ever seen. Nigerians are heavily consuming data, and that means more revenue for MTN and Airtel and the rest of them, and their share price is going up. Will that continue to the unforeseeable future? That's what the numbers are telling us now. So it looks as though we are unlocking value, and these numbers are actually doing much better. So remember, as we want you now to be in the stock market, we also have another course that all it does is just scrutinizing stocks, what they do, what to look at, and things like that. And also, don't forget, play the long-term game and just wait. There was a time I bought Wema Bank stocks for like 50 kobo, right? And all of that. Of course, they did a right issue and they adjusted their price and all of that. But Wema Bank stock has gone way, way, way up now. So just being able to say, can I wait for 2 years? Can I wait for 3 years? Can I wait long term? If you cannot wait for at least 2 years, we can't guarantee it. And because we cannot guarantee, we don't want a situation where, oh my gosh, I invested in the stock market and I've now lost money. When the case was, I'm unable to be able to wait. Okay, great. So we've seen the top 10, Beta Glass, Honeywell, Vitafoam, Presco, Scoa, Chelarams, HIMS, HIMs. It's a US company. They do weight loss and they've been doing really, really, really well. There's a weight loss company in the US and their numbers have been remarkable. So Bibian is saying, is the stock market good or bad? That's what we're saying. It's not bad, but it is an investment that you have to think long term because of the different moving parts. The economy is there. We're going into an election year in the next 2 years. Is the Naira going to be stable and things like that? So you have to have money that you can afford to take your eyes away from. So you're not thinking 3 months and you're not thinking 6 months for stock. You're thinking long term with stock. So we're not saying don't touch it. I'm saying go in, but think long term with it. Great. Another way I want you to also think about it is this. Think at it like you're buying a dress, right? I'm buying a dress, I'm buying an outfit, I want to leave it long term, I want to have it for several years. Right? Not everybody throws their dress or their shoes away after 3 months. So if you're thinking along it in those ways, then it's easier for you to be able to, accommodate the thought. There's something else called cost averaging. Cost averaging basically means that you're not trying to time the market. People do that a lot. They're waiting for the price to come to a certain point, and you might not get it at a certain point. So what we do is we do a cost average, meaning that whether the rain shines or the rain does not shine, or whether the rain falls or the sun shines, we are going to invest, for instance, 50,000 naira every month into the stock market, right? And we are choosing X, Y, and Z stock. We do not worry about the price, and we're going to get an average. If you do that consistently over a period of time, eventually your average evens out. Because when people are waiting for a particular price and they never get it, they might price themselves out of that stock altogether. So we always say stop trying to price or time the market. You can set targets for yourself, or you can also do a cost averaging when you go into the market every month religiously and take certain points. Right? So now, what do I do when the market fluctuates? Because it will fluctuate. It is meant to fluctuate. The market is built on fluctuation. One way to deal with volatility is to avoid it altogether. That means that staying invested and not paying attention to short-term fluctuations. Don't even worry about it. Right? If you're trading in a volatile market, the limit order, it's an order placed with a brokerage that chooses a specified price. You can also use that. Number two, during volatile times, many investors get spooked and they begin to question their investment strategy. And that's why I said, before you buy a stock, I want you asking all the right questions. What does this company do? How do they make money? Why are they in the market? So, for instance, if you're looking at the banking sector, GTB is one of the most efficient bank. When I'm talking about efficiency, it's not customer service. As a customer service, as a person that goes to bank in GTB, terrible customer service. But if you're looking at their financial numbers as to the strength of their numbers, is the most efficient bank in Nigeria. So you're looking at those things. When I'm talking about efficiency, what do I mean? They're able to achieve more with limited resources compared to their peers, right? So the result that they get is more or at the same result, even with less capital. That's what we use to calculate efficiency. Do you get? So that's primarily what we're trying to say about the efficiency of the bank. Again, this is not subjective. GTV does not know me. It's not paid or anything. I'm looking at the numbers. So every time you're doing your analysis, you're looking at the numbers. What is this thing? Like even Presco, is a company, they're in the palm oil industry. This is the numbers they've been doing. They've invested over the years. You're looking for all those key things. What key news are they making? How are they meeting local demands? You want to start reading up and be genuinely interested so that you're not just taking your picks from Twitter. People will just see something on Twitter. These are the top 5 stock, and they just go and buy it. They're not looking at the financial statement. They're not reading up on it. They do not know who their CEOs are, and you should know all those things. Another thing, again, to talk about when you're investing in stocks is that over diversification. Somebody can take 200,000 naira and put 5,000 naira in like 20 different stocks. It defeats the entire purpose. You are too thinly diversified in order for you to enjoy the benefit of it. So, where do you draw the line? Many people say maybe 8 stocks is enough, right? Just buy 8 stocks and that's it. So, for instance, on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, we have almost 200 stocks on it. In the US, they have about 5,000 stocks. That's even a crazier market, right? So, with almost 200 stocks in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you don't want to be in every stock. Do your research, find 8 good ones, invest in it, take your hands off. Take your hands off. That's where people really struggle, taking their hands off that stock. Okay, great. Um, Foreign equities. If you look at Netflix, for instance, if you invested 100,000 naira in it 14 years ago, you would have 14.5 million naira now. And if you look at Tencent, if you invested 100,000 naira 16 years ago, you have 60 million naira now. So why are we saying this? Long-term gain, right? So if you look at the first 10 years of Netflix, it looked like they were stupid, nothing was happening, and then it started to pick up towards the end of it, right? If you look at Tencent, similar story, first 10 years, looked like they were stupid, it looked like they were not doing much, and then it started to pick up, right? So the same thing with your investing, you have to be patient, you have to be able to wait in the game for a long time. Many people, after 3 months, they're not seeing any action, they've sold the stock. It's just basically managing their emotions. I studied in South Africa and I got into a program called the Top 8 Traders for Africa. It was done by CNBC. And the first time who they brought to speak to us were the psychologists. And I was surprised. An investment show, we should just start investing in the stock market and doing all of that. But it was psychologists they brought. And when they brought the psychologists, they were just talking about the power of being able to wait long term, managing your emotions and behavior, because that is the biggest problem many people have. They do not know how to manage their emotions, they do not know how to manage their behavior, right? Once the market glitches, they just start panicking, they are selling or doing other things. So, how will I behave if my stock loses 20% of its value? Will I panic? Will I sell it in a haste? These are all the kind of questions you should be asking yourself. How will I behave when I do not get the desired outcome I'm looking for? All right, so this was over the space of the last 4 years. We were looking at the top companies, and we call them the Magnificent Eight. So Nvidia, Meta, formerly Facebook, Tesla, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Microsoft, and Google. These are the Magnificent Eight, right? And they've been doing really, really, really well. If you look at Nvidia, over the last 4 years, crazy numbers, it's been delivering almost an average of over 50% return per annum. This year alone is still doing good numbers. So you're always asking yourself, what are they doing? What does Nvidia do? What does Meta do? What does Tesla do? Tesla has been in the news for a while now. How about Amazon, Netflix, Apple? You're researching, why am I going to buy into this? If I buy into this, how long am I going to stay? But the data is telling you that if you stay for over 10 years, the numbers usually look better. So long term is very, very important. All right. What $1,000 Nvidia was worth over time? In 2015, it was worth $1,000. In 2018, it was worth $6,180. In 2022, $1,000 was worth $116,160. In 2025, Nvidia was worth $1,000 was worth $318,000. In 2028, could it be worth $680,000? The summary of this post is use what you have. Every time we talk about investing, people say, oh my gosh, I need to have $10,000, I need to have 100 million naira. In this case, we're working with $1,000. It could be $100, it could be $10, but you've seen that growth. Imagine that person that invested $1,000 in 2015, this was about 300,000 naira. And that person, as of today, is walking away with $318,000. That is about 500 million naira with just 300,000 naira. So Nvidia literally turned 300,000 naira into 500 million naira in the space of 10 years. Every time people keep abusing 9 to 5 and say, oh, you cannot build wealth with 9 to 5, I disagree. You simply do not know how to invest. Because if that person could have taken 300,000 naira of their salary in 2015 and invested in the stock market, in the next 10 years, you could see results like this. The next question people then say is, how would I spot the next NVIDIA? How would you know? Number one, it's not possible for you to know, oh my gosh, it will be this guy. When I invested currently in 2021, I did my research. I loved their business model, what they were doing, and their expectations, amongst others, right? And I was like, oh, how would this company grow over the years? And that was what worked, right? So you just have to study. Take it might just be 30 minutes on a weekend, join a community, read up about the stocks together. Not everybody will be an entrepreneur. Investing is still one of the great ways in order for you to build wealth. And it is nice, slow and steady. 10 years in the game, play a long-term game. But now in 2025, I'm really hoping that in 2035, you can have something different to say, right? So real estate, I feel if you want to invest in real estate, go and speak to a professional, somebody that is what they do for a living and that is the area of expertise. Cryptocurrency basically is the technology behind it. Do you know that it takes less than 20 minutes for you to register a coin? So I can actually print a coin, calling it Money Africa coin, right? So you have something called the alternate you have your regular coin. The same thing with currency, right? So you have the big boys, the pound, the dollar, the euro, and then you have the smaller, you have the medium people, and then you also have the smaller boys, right? Like your naira, your kwacha, and the rest of them. The same thing happens with the cryptocurrency. The Bitcoin is like the foremost one, is the one everybody knows. It's like the dollar, sense that this is the big boy of that particular sector, right? And the other players, the like I said, the altcoins, the smaller ones, and then you have the big regular coins. In terms of cryptocurrency, it's a lot of learning as well. You want to understand, and most importantly, you want to be able to apportion your risk. I know of a particular investor that all their money is in Bitcoin. At that then, they looked stupid, they looked foolish. They were buying Bitcoin then when it was $10,000, when it was $5,000, but they're smiling to the bank now. They've made their money, right? So diversification is also very important. Asking yourself, what is my risk appetite? How long can I stay in the market for? Where should I be investing, amongst others, right? So, and also, I also have clients that say, Tosin, cryptocurrency is not for me. Absolutely, that's fine. It's okay. Go to the stock market, go into the real estate, go into personal development. Money can be made everywhere else. You don't have to be in every investment bucket. So there's some people that will say, I don't care how interesting it looks, I'm just not interested in it. And that's absolutely okay. All right, next one is investing in startups. So basically, this could mean for yourself, right? Meaning that I want to invest in a startup. For instance, now building a startup or investing in a startup, 4 in 5 of them fail in the first 5 years. But the question is, what if you succeed? I always tell people before you invest in startups, number one, money that you're ready to lose, it's a high risk asset. The risk is higher than the stock market because there are two different things. For the stock market, these guys have to have auditors. They audit their books, they have a team, they're regulated and things like that, right? Or like on the startup that nobody's even looking into the startup's books. Like it's just based more of, what could happen in the future. You're betting against what could happen and you're taking such a high risk. The risk is much, much, much higher than investing in the stock market, right? So put your house in order. Let it be money that you're willing to lose, right? There is a 80% chance you're going to lose that money. So let it be money that you're willing to lose. And the next thing is also is the founders. Who are the founders? What is their dream? What is their vision? Because for visionary founders, they don't get it in the first try. They don't get it in the second try. They could get it in the third try. So very, very important for you to be able to do that research and find out who are the people behind it and what is the idea. The next one is personal development. You're your biggest asset. So for instance, this class we're having this evening is a personal development session. You're educating yourself, you're looking for how to invest in yourself. So for every 1 naira you invest in yourself, you get 100 naira return. And that's a minimum of 9,900% return. That's crazy. That's a very, very, very high return. So you always want to treat yourself as an asset class, right? Go and sign up for that education, get more, go and learn more things, sit on the internet, build your skills, improve your speaking, improve your visibility at work, do work that people can actually trust. And we can go on and on and on personal development, somebody that you can be trusted, somebody that your quality of work is fantastic. We all know that one person that, gosh, their work is so, so, so good. I can go on and on, even right down to even social media. You see how some people, you can tell the level of diligence and work and investment that has gone into it. Listen, you cannot invest in something that nobody will say it. You can't hide investment in yourself. You can't hide it. Once you invest in yourself, it's going to be so glaring that everybody can see it. So you have to take that time out and actually invest intentionally in building yourself. All right, the next one is currency risk. Did you know that on average, the naira loses 28 of its value per annum? This was since 1990. However, if we stretch it to 1973, the naira has been losing 10.6% per annum. Why am I saying all of this? We're saying all of this to ensure that you invest in foreign denominated assets as well, right? So the money market mutual fund denominated in dollars, the euro bond, the S&P 500. S&P 500 tracks the 500 largest companies in the world, and you want to be in it. It gives an average of 10% per annum over the last 2 decades, over the last 15 years, right? So where can I start? S&P 500 is a good place to start, right? So you have to be invested in dollar-denominated assets. Next one, the rich stay rich because they invest in assets, but look at how they diversify their assets. 14% in global equity, 18% in US equity. This means that about 30% is going into the stock market. You're seeing 7% in the money bond, 7% in cash, 2% in direct investment. About 30% of their money is going into low risk assets. You're seeing 10% in private equity, 2% in venture capital, and 18% in hedge funds. You're seeing about 30% is going towards high risk assets. So, in summary, the wealthiest of the wealthiest are taking their money, dividing into three, putting one in low risk, one in medium risk, and one in high risk. This is how the wealthiest of the people are investing. While you, Oluwatosin from Lagos, Nigeria, would then take like 50% of your money and put it into crypto. Even the wealthiest people are not taking that crazy risk, right? So, how you manage your risk is very, very important. At the end of the day, people are either taking too much risk or they're taking too little risk. So, you have to be very, very intentional about how you deploy your limited resources and how you invest it. Great. So I'm going to read the story to you about behavior. Let me tell you the story of two investors, another of whom who knew each other, but whose paths crossed in an interesting way. We have Grace Groner. She was orphaned at the age of 12. She was never married. She never had kids. She never drove a car. She lived most of her life alone in a one-bedroom house and worked her whole life as a secretary. She was, by all accounts, a lovely lady, but she lived a humble life. This made the $7 million she left to charity after her death in 2010 at age 100 all the more confusing. People who knew her asked, where did Grace Groner get all that money from? But there was no secret, there was no inheritance. Grace took humble savings from a middle salary and enjoyed 80 years of hands off compounding in the stock market. That was all she did. Weeks after Grace died, an unrelated investing story hit the news. Richard Foscon, who was a former vice chairman of Merrill Lynch Latin American division, he declared personal bankruptcy. He was fighting off foreclosure on two homes, one of which was nearly 20,000 square feet. Oh my God. And had a $66,000 a month mortgage. That's people's annual salary. Some people don't even earn that in a year. Foscon was the opposite of Grace Groner. He was educated at Harvard and the University of Chicago. He became so successful in the investment industry that he retired in his 40s to pursue personal and charitable interests. But heavy borrowing and illiquid investments did him in. Illiquid investments are high risk assets. The same year Grace Groner died and left a veritable fortune of $7 million to charity was the same year Richard stood before a bankruptcy judge and declared, I have been devastated by the financial crisis, and the only source of liquidity is whatever my wife is able to sell in personal furnishing. The purpose of this story is not to say that you should be like Grace and avoid being like Richard, but it is to point out that there is no other field where these stories are even possible. In what other field will you see somebody with no education, no relevant experience, no resources, no connections, vastly outperform somebody who has the best education, the most relevant experience, and the best resources? And this is the power of investing. Many people are scared of investing because they say things like, Tosin, I did not come from a high income household. I did not study abroad. I don't have a degree in finance. You give all the possible excuses. But we've seen here a low income woman in her 20s that was doing a meager job, like a cleaner. A cleaner invested her way towards wealth. And I'm not just talking about $100,000, $7 million. Two things were in her advantage. Number one, she started early. If you read that story, she started in her 20s. Number two, God gave her long life. She died at 100. So she was able to stay in the market for 80 years and she did not touch it. She took her hands off. So those are the three things. Number one, start early. Number two, do it regularly. Number three, take your hands off, right? So those are the three key things that was able to work for her. So we can leave this session thinking again, oh, trust me, if you want to find excuses, we're going to find those excuses. The sun is not shining, the road is not great, we don't have electricity. Like, and your excuses are valid. Please do not get me wrong. I am not discounting the excuses, but I'm saying that if you want to find those excuses, you will find them. But I'm also showing you that it's absolutely possible. Right? So, what are the books to read? The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel is my favorite author. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin, Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, and Atomic Habits. I took out this quote by Warren Buffett. He said that I went the whole gamut. I collected, I read all the technical stuff, I listened to tips, and then I picked up Graham's The Intelligent Investor. That was like seeing the light. Now, for a lot of people that do not have finance background, they find The Intelligent Investor as a hard book to read, but trust me, there are other great books out there. Get Rich or Die Trying. There's another author, Sahil Bloom. I really love it. He just launched this book this year or last year, Five Types of Wealth. Fantastic book. There are communities. So, for instance, at Money Africa, we read a book every month, right? We read a book, I think, over the space of like 2 months because we take like one chapter every week. We digest it. We have a savings and investment community. You can save on our app. You can download our Treasury Bills app. For your mid to high income earners, we have consultants. All of them are chartered accountants. They can take a one-on-one session with you to help you talk about your money. We can assist you. We can do all of that. At the end of the day, we just want a situation where as people are making informed decisions, they're seeing opportunities out there, they're seeing what is possible. I started this session talking about the story of the lady that got an all expense paid to Japan, right? And she did not take it because she doesn't have a passport, and that she could have gotten a passport with 70,000 naira, right? And there are times that we are also doing that. Oh, I have to be an entrepreneur to become rich. Oh, I have to come from a high income household. Oh, I need to have masters. Oh, I need to do this. And you always have excuses. So I'm challenging you now to do the best thing that you can do. Look for how, for those that do not have a job yet, there was a lady that said, I'm not yet earning up to 30K. Continue to get those jobs, continue to apply the opportunities out there. Once you have that job, start budgeting, start saving in naira, start investing in dollars. Everybody has to be invested in dollars. I told you the statistics about the currency depreciation. Join a community where they're talking about money. You should feel comfortable talking about money. I remember that was at 5 years ago when I'm always talking about money on the internet, and people are like, "What is it? Why are you obsessed? Why are you always talking about this money?" But we need to destigmatize it, especially for women. Be comfortable having the money conversations because whether you like it or not, it is your money or your life. Your money literally can save your life, and you should not take a back seat at something that is so important to your livelihood. You want to be right in front of it, in the driver's seat, being in control. I really do hope that you enjoyed the session, right? We'll be opening the page now for questions. Remember that you can, book one-on-one services. You can download the app and do all of that. Somebody is saying that. So I'm taking questions now. So someone is saying that the Money Africa page is not loading. Are you sure? We have someone in the back end that is posting our links, so we'll continue to post it. So I'll go to the questions one by one. Okay, and for those that had an amazing session, please feel free to put it on your Instagram stories, put it on your Twitter, go on Google, drop a review for us and things like that. So I'll take the question one by one. Adiola is saying that I hated stocks because my father, who was an amazing banker, lost it all in the stock market when it crashed in 2026. I doubt I'll like that environment. Hold on, let me take a snapshot of that. Don't worry, I'll blow out your name. So I'll go back to that particular graph, and that's a very valid question. I think I covered it, but I'm not sure if I covered it in detail. Okay. Great. If you look at this arrow here, that arrow here is the one showing you that 2006 and that 2008 drop. And guess what? For years, the market never bounced back till 2023, and then we saw a change. Started to go back up. What they are saying is that they have better process now. Back in those days, what used to happen was that the banks used to move their funds all around, right? So it was like manipulative numbers. So they would move their money around. So everybody had different year end for their dates for their, so that way they could move their balance sheet around. But now they've put everybody's year end date on the same day, 31st of December for all the financial institutions. They can't do that anymore. There are better policies, there are better procedures. We have a stronger market now. but your fear is valid, right? Also, remember the thing about fear, it's your reality. You saw that happen to your dad, so I cannot just write it off and say, oh, come off it and things like that. It's a valid concern. You can also look into the US market if you still feel that way. But what we've seen is that there's been a shift in the market. There has been a shift, and we're really crossing fingers to see what the next 10 years is going to look like. But there has been a shift, and I genuinely empathize with you. All right, great. So somebody is saying that the two URLs are joined together. Please separate them. Okay, so Emmanuel is in back end. Please separate them. Um, Piton is saying that. Oof, these things are moving so fast. How do I save up for a pension fund in Nigeria in the safest way? Okay, great. If you work in a company that has more than 7 to employees and you're full time, usually they always want you to contribute towards pension, and your company does that, right? So if you work on a solid organization, they already do that for you, right? So if they already do that for you, you have to do that. But if you're a freelancer, if you're a small business entrepreneur, you have to do it yourself. You can download these apps to do that, right? There's a particular company that does that for you. I can't remember from the top of my head, but I'll send it to you guys and show you how it's for micro pension, that is for invest for small business owners, freelancers, and things like that. You can then invest in yourself. But now bear in mind that the pension industry invests about 99% of their money in naira. So because of the volatility of the naira, I want you to still be investing in US dollars, right? Just to hedge yourself against that risk. Okay, great. Somebody says, do you offer financial literacy for people in Kenya? I have a plug in Kenya. She's a really lovely lady. I think in our next session, I can share her details with you guys. I'm trying to remember her name from the top of my head, but I'm not. And I'm sorry that I'm forgetting all those names now. Yes, Stanbic also helps with micro pension as well. You can also try. Yes, the company name is Awaba. Awaba, AWABAH. But Stanbic also does that. Somebody says, I have a phobia about investing growing up because my father bought shares of companies. And, oh, where's that question? It has disappeared. Hold on. Oh, where is it? Oh, I can't find it. All right, sorry about that. I hope to find it again. Oyinye is saying, do your financial advisors give recommendation on stocks to invest in for persons that don't understand financial jargon? Yes, yes, yes. They do a curated one for you. They literally show you the stocks to invest in and things like that. They take into consideration your age, do you have kids, all your responsibilities, and they're able to do that for you. So Edith Young says, let me see. So I'm trying to read. Oyiko is saying, you've not been getting newsletters. Please send us a mail. We'll fix that. Sorry about that. Um, Adiola Sharafa says he died in 2022. Sadly, can his stocks be monetized now? Yes, yes, yes. What we'll do is for you, for your sake, we're going to do a post this week how to redeem your dividends, the steps on how to do that. So for your purpose, I will make sure that a post goes out this week that is talking about how can I claim my dividend. Now, bear in mind that if your dad has not touched his dividend in the last 12 years, unfortunately, he won't even be able to get it. They usually have like a 12-year, because what happens is after 12 years, then they sort of, let it go. But if it's within the 12 years, he'll be able to get it, and also the share itself. And I'm sorry about that, your loss of your dad. Okay. Um, so I'm just trying to go through all the questions. How do I start my money journey? I'm hearing emergency funds, insurance. That's a fair question with a 100K monthly salary. Thank you, Kemi, for asking. That's a very valid question. So this is the thing, right? Where I want you to start from with that 100,000 naira is a budget. First of all, start with a budget. I do not know your current situation in the sense that you could be working from home, meaning that you don't have to pay rent. You could be married, somebody else is paying rent. I don't know the situation, right? But you have to start with that budget. How much do you have left? Now, take that amount you have left, and I'm going to tell you about something unconventional. Instead of me watching you put in 20,000 naira every month and saving, I'm going to be very honest about what I'm going to do. I would rather flip that money over. So I'm going to go and look for a skill. So if it's I want to build my design journey, or I want to learn how to sew, I want to learn how to do hair or something, but I'm going to take some money and I'm aggressively going to go and use it to increase my skill so that I can earn more money. Back in the days when we started Money Africa, earning 100K per month was not such a bad thing. This was in 2018 when the naira to the dollar was around 300, right? So that was about $300. As of today, 100K is not even up to $100, right? So I want you to start looking for how can we grow that income. So yes, I want you saving and investing, but my priority for you would be I want to increase it. I want to build skills. So if you have a course that you can pay for, a learning, somebody will teach you something, 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 go and pay for it. That's an investment. And also, regardless of how much you earn, I really do not want anybody to play with health insurance. I think Reliance HMO charges 30K for a whole year. Please, please, please. If you have Ashoebi in your wardrobe, you can afford health insurance. Let me tell you the story about a colleague of mine, a friend of mine. She got an insurance plan. God forbid, she fell really sick and they had to pay over 1 million naira, and the Nigerian company paid it, right? So from Mansa to Leadway, this pay. Please, please, please. Because if your family have to go on the internet to source for funds, and remember, we are not mocking, we are not shaming them. Time is a critical component in healthcare. The faster the doctors can move, the quicker they can save your life. Sometimes those fundraising takes like a month or even 2 weeks, and every day you are left unattended to comes at a huge price. So that's why I keep saying, please, 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 get a good health insurance. Get it. So God forbid, if anything happens, you are the machine. If you are alive, every other thing will come together. So we want to keep you healthy. We want to keep you alive. Every other thing adds up. Also, for those that feel like they're struggling with blockages, right? They're unable to think through, unable to get through the clutter. Maybe you're living in a place that you're unable to think, right? I want you getting out of that clutter. We need to be able to declutter your mind so that you can get to the next level, right? Because your mind also forms a very key component. If you have to see a therapist, look for that money, go and speak to someone. So those blockages that is hindering you from getting to the next point, invest in it and see yourself to be able to make that next step. All right, great. So let me check for a few more questions. I'll be good to go. So I don't keep you on a Sunday night. Sorry. Okay, how do I invest in a S&P 500? You can download Trove app. Chaka also. S&P 500 is a nice place to start. On average, it gives about 10% over the last 15 years. That has been the number. You can get that there. Somebody says, is there any discount if you want to register now for the 80K program? It used to be 100K. We literally gave 20% discount for it. Somebody said I also recommend Smart Woman Tribe. We agree. That's a very good one. Somebody is asking, where's the question? Will 7% USD mutual fund ever be better than 20% Nigerian mutual fund? That's a good question, right? Short term, short term, short term. For the next 1 year, I'm very positive that the naira is going to stay within 1,600 to 1,800. Short term, yes. Long term, get into that dollar. Data does not lie. Since 1973, the naira has been depreciating over 10% every year. Since 1990, it has been depreciating by 28% every year. 5 year, 10 years, get into the dollar. Short term, 1 year, 18 months, get into the naira, right? And then let's also see what the government and what the policy is going to look like in the next 18 months. But short term, the naira is looking relatively strong. They're putting a couple of policies in place. So I'll just say short term. I can't promise more than a year. And remember as well that we are analysts, we're looking at the numbers. If policy changes, then it could change all the numbers together. All right. So somebody says I went to Access Bank to buy health insurance, but they said I do not use the money in 1 year. The company takes it. That's not a health insurance. That's not a health insurance. I think that should be like a life insurance or something else like that. With a health insurance, you don't get your money back, right? And it's usually like 75,000 naira, 50,000 naira, thereabouts. You don't get your cash back. Like, you're literally insuring for your health, right? So I don't think that is a health insurance. Please go back and ask them again. All right. Um, for someone who is yet to have an emergency fund, please share how one can build up the fund. Take the amount of money you spend every month to survive. Don't add money for going out to drinks or hanging out with the boys or with the girls. Don't add anything extravagant. Things like water, rice and stew at home, not restaurant food, eba, okra, all the things you eat in your house. To buy data to keep the lights on, to get your phone on, the little petrol or the transportation to move around, the essential, the most essential, get that number, multiply it by 3, and keep it somewhere that you can easily access it. So you can put your emergency funds in on Ladders app. You can also go to the commercial banks and all of that, but it has to be somewhere that you can get it within 24 hours. That's how it works. Now, people are saying, how do you buy stocks in Nigeria and abroad? For Nigeria and abroad, there's Trove, there's Chaka, there are a couple of other apps out there that allows you to do that, right? There's also S&P 500, which is a great place to start, right? For those that are living in the US, you want to use for the US, you want to use Robinhood. For Canada, you want to use Wealth Simple. For UK, you want to use Free Trade, right? So those are like the three key ones that we know that a lot, like about 40% of our customers are Nigerians and diaspora. So those are some of their questions as well. Somebody is saying investing 50K per month, you stated, with those returns after 30 to 40 years, what are we investing in exactly to get these returns? All right, great. So it's like I said, it depends on what it is. It could be a money market mutual fund, it could be a dollar denominated fund. What we used was the example. In that scenario, we're using like a 10% return. As of today, lots of money market mutual funds are giving you way more than 10%. Do you get the gist? So we're just using that scenario with more of the percentages to show you what growth looks like when people take their hands off. And if your institution is not doing automatic compounding, at the end of every year, withdraw your interest and add it to your capital. You have to do that compounding yourself. All right, great. I think we've covered almost all the other questions here. Um, okay, so I guess my parting words will be thank you all so much for coming on a Sunday night. You could have been anywhere. I was bonding with your family, going out or just doing any other thing, or even just resting. Thank you for coming to this session. I hope you found it helpful. Feel free to drop us a review. And then for those that mid to high income earners, I strongly recommend speaking to a specialist. When I worked at British American Tobacco, I wish I knew that a service like this existed and somebody was able to speak to me about my money, right? So speak to somebody about your money. Let them be able to look into it and be able to advise you. For somebody that is saying, also, I did not earn up to 500K, I do not recommend you speak to an analyst yet. Rather start with S&P 500 and gradually start building it over time. Look for how to earn more money. You're not limited to Nigeria. Think of Nigeria as the world, as your global market, and looking for how you can also earn outside of Nigeria as well. Also remember, patience, patience, patience. Take your hands off. You saw all these stories that we read, and then pick up one of this financial literacy book and read it. Also, what would be very helpful is also get a buddy, somebody you're talking to about money. So we have a Telegram community where we're always talking about money. You want to be in societies or in groups like this, like we're talking GTB did this, First Bank did this, these numbers are happening. Do you get what I'm trying to say? We want to make the money conversation mainstream. Yesterday, Adekunle Gold tweeted, what stock should I buy? And guess what? That is victory. When the conversations about the stock market, about investing has become so mainstream that everybody is now talking about it. But that could also mean something else in the sense that we might be seeing a bust, right? Because when everybody starts talking about a particular stock, they're like, oh my gosh, is the market having a bubble? But we should not stop talking about investing. We should keep simplifying it and also just basically educating everyone. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Have a fantastic evening. Somebody is saying Robin Wood requires social security number. Yes, that's true, and that's why if you have a study visa in the US, if you have a residency visa, you should have a social security number for those that actually live there. All right, take care, take care. Thank you, guys. Bye.